Now I get to introduce my mentor and Shiro, Samantha Skenandore. She's the best federal Indian lawyer out there. I met Samantha through our Bioneers Rights of Nature project. I was in law school wondering what the hell I was doing because I was an activist and a waitress, not a litigator. But when I met Samantha, I realized that activism and litigation can go side by side. And Bioneers gave us an assignment. They told us, create a toolkit for tribes that want to pass rights of nature laws. Look to the past laws, predict what some outcomes might be. And in my federal Indian law class, I learned that the colonizer is a theft, a liar, and a bamboozler. So I called Samantha in despair, and I was like, what the hell is sovereignty? The courts, the laws, the termination era, the broken treaties, like how are tribes gonna do this? And she told me, she said, Brittany, sovereignty is not something that you have, it's something that you flex and you fight for. And if we relied on the laws that were already written, we're gonna miss the opportunity to make new ones. Now, Samantha is a legend in Indian country. She represents tribal nations on the front lines that their ancestors fought to protect not only the land, the air, but the culture of reciprocity and right relationships. So I know lawyers get a very bad rep, but Samantha is smashing glass ceilings, crappy policies, and breaking stereotypes. And I know you've seen those lawyer ads, like in a car accident, call this lawyer and they'll take 40% of what we get for you. But I think Samantha needs her own kind of lawyer commercial because what she does is so necessary and so out of the box. So if I may, is your tribe fighting some extractive industry and needs to assert your Aboriginal rights? Call Sam. Does your tribe's community center want solar panels? Call Samantha. Does your tribe want a community center? Call Samantha. Is the Bureau of Indian Affairs giving you a hard time? Call Sam. Do you need a gaming compact, a rights of nature policy? Do you need to go to Washington and tell your representatives to do the right thing? Call Sam. Does your tribe want to create a horizontally integrated medical marijuana industry that incorporates traditional ecological knowledge and workforce development and makes money for your tribe's educational department? Call Sam. Now, do you want to go to law school, and especially as an Indigenous woman? Call Samantha. Do you want to become a Supreme Court justice for your tribe? Call Sam. If your tribe has a problem that requires a lawyer, activist, legend, and one of the most hilarious and heartfelt women I know, call Sam. Call Sam. If you're in a jam, just call Sam. So now I'm going to step aside and I yield my time, and may it please the Court of Bioneers, I'm so honored to welcome Samantha Skenandore, attorney at law. Thank you.
Oh my. I have tears from laughing on the sidelines here. Britt, my little sister, love you. That's amazing. Hi, Bioneers. How are you? Wow, look at these beautiful people. Let's get my slideshow up and running here. Check out this beautiful lady. Does she look like me just a smidge? That's my mom. It's Elena Black Deer Green Deer, and she walked on just a couple years ago. But the whole point of my talk today is to talk about where we come from, so we know where we're going. And we're going to talk about some of the battles along the way. We're going to talk about people like Jasmine Smith, who you just heard from, Britt Gondolfi, these amazing human beings, right, that have changed the world already, and they're just getting started. Where I came from my mom's background, she's a beautiful, full-blood Ho-Chunk. I was lucky enough to grow up in a fluent-speaking family where my grandmother and my mom converse in their fluent language right in front of me all day long. My dad, my grandfathers, my uncles, my aunties, which we called Chewies and Degas, they spoke openly, and they spoke in this beautiful language. And when I finally took the time as a teenager, when we're all teenagers and we're Indigenous and we're like, I don't really know my language and I kind of want to learn it, I went and popped myself into some language classes. I went to immersion camps, and I started to hear our language, and it was so beautiful. The way we describe things. We know English, a lot of us, that's our first language. And it's an okay language. It's okay. It's all right. I mean, it does the job. But the way we describe things, how our profound love for each other, the way we see things, the way somebody's described something for thousands of years, and it's made it to my brain and my heart. Such a beautiful thing. And I have to say, I struggle with the language. It's not the easiest thing in the world to learn because we don't have lots of people to talk to. And that's the other piece of it. There's so many languages out there. I find myself truly entranced with other people and learning just bits and pieces of their language. But I'm so lucky that my mom was a fluent speaker. And I was taught that. I was taught, 10, 20,000 years worth of love for how we communicate from human to each other, but also human to planet. And we're here because of people and planet, right? We're here because of that special relationship. And we're here to learn how to make it better and how to save each other, actually. So I want to talk to you a little bit about indigeneity. Who knows what indigeneity is? Woo! I often call it a work in progress because it's really your group, your family. What do we know? What do we know that links you to other people and links you to the planet? What are the smarts behind that? What's the history behind that? And where does it come from? And so sometimes when we think about how are we going to fix things, really, really big things, some of the biggest things that are out there that need fixing, we have to know who we are. We have to understand who we are. We have to accept who we are. We have to build who we are. We have to build capacity. We have to build love. We have to build connection. Even with allies that we never saw us connecting with, we have to build all of those things. And indigeneity is, to me, the way that we do these things. This is the way that I've learned how to do things and make phenomenal change with phenomenal individuals, whether they're domestic violence victims or we're opening a new casino. When I'm in rooms with people that don't like me, don't like the way I look, don't like that I'm a woman, don't like that I'm a brown woman, don't like that I'm an educated woman, and don't like that I'm probably more credentialed than most people in the room. When they don't like that, I sit there and smile and I'm friendly, and I'm kind, and I'm approachable. Of course, I'm also not that nice, just for everybody, I don't want to mischaracterize myself. I'm also not that nice. Not that nice. Definitely not that nice. In fact, my mom, who you just saw, she used to call me the Indian Beth Dutton. Who saw the Yellowstone series? Right, remember Beth Dutton? I think she's coming out with a spin-off, but Beth Dutton's kind of ruthless, right? She's all about family. She doesn't cut corners. So my own mom, and they always say, people don't know you except your parents the best, right? If you want to really know somebody, go meet their parents. They'll tell you like it is. So yes, my mom would give me all this Beth Dutton hats and t-shirts, and I was like, am I supposed to wear that? I'm like, okay, I'll wear it, Mom. So I did. I've been wearing it around. But one thing I did know is that one of these things to come to terms with and I'm speak to where's our Indigenous youth here? You're like everywhere. Hi, guys. Oh my goodness. So this is for you. Okay, competing values. We heard a little bit from Jasmine, we heard a little bit from Britt. If we go on this journey to learn about ourselves as Indigenous people, where we are in 2026, we're gonna be 5 and 10 years from now, we have to think about what we're up against, right? So let's get to the present here. Actually, wait, let's take a minute. Before we get to our present here, let's talk about what used to be, because we have to have an end game here. And what used to be was a beautiful planet. There was a beautiful planet. And I tell you from my Ho-Chunk background, I've had the privilege to sit with elders. Sometimes I'd be on assignment to learn about a sacred site, and they say, Samantha, go sit with that elder. We don't care if you're out there for a day, or 2 days, or 3 days, just sit with them, learn everything you can, because you're gonna have to go out there and protect that site. So I would sit by the day, and I get paid $15 an hour to sit with elders. What a dream job, right? And I would sit with these elders, and they would go on, and I would just sit there and sometimes take notes, but really just try to listen as hard as I could. And they told me all these great stories about Ho-Chunks. In our Ho-Chunk culture, we had ancestral homeland from around Green Bay, Wisconsin, north of Green Bay, out west around the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, south of Dubuque, and then way south of Chicago into Illinois and Indiana. We are known prolifically for our Indian mound culture, effigy mounds, conical mounds, circular mounds, linear mounds, made and filled with ancestral remains and medicines, and they're all over my homelands. Wherever I see a mound, I know that's Ho-Chunk, and I know it's my responsibility to protect it. So over the years, I've had 20 years of being a lawyer. I've also been elected to my Supreme Court as a justice, associate justice. But what I've learned along the way is I keep going back to that time with those elders to learn about our history. And one thing that I learned in my mind is really vision. It's the history of where do I want to go with my little short life that I have here. And I think of many, many stories that I've heard over the years. And one of them is when we managed our land and our relationships, we always try to do it in a good way. Wagihade is a concept in Ho-Chunk. It means to love one another more than you love yourself. And that's how you're human. When you don't do that, you're not human anymore. And that's kind of crazy when you think about it. And when you're not loving one another, or you're doing things that aren't about loving somebody more than yourself, then they consider you kind of sick. And like, how sick can you be if you're not out loving other people more than yourself? And that's the way of life. So when I was on the Supreme Court of the Ho-Chunk Nation, I made sure Wagihide was captured in our traditional laws and our customs, because one day I'm not going to be here. And it might be my great-grandkid that's looking at a decision from our court. And I want them to see that word Wagihide that was signed by Chinukmaning, myself right here, that I put that into the record for them to read one day. If it's not taught anymore, I want it to be there, written in our court records. So Wagihide is really important. It was taught to me when I was younger. And one of the ways that they said we did things was when we managed our homelands, we took care of each other. That's why we welcomed the colonists. That's why we took care of them. They had been doing that for thousands of years. There's Viking helmets in our gifts from our local people. There are treasures that you don't see in museums showing all of our international trade. There are laws between tribes that are matriarchal and patriarchal of how you can marry, how you enforce law. They had sophisticated trade routes everywhere. My own homeland, Madison, Wisconsin, Dejo, 4 Lakes, mega mecca, all the way down the isthmus where the Wisconsin state capitol is. That was a massive, massive place where they did intertribal trade. People came from all over the world to negotiate trade in our lands. This is way before Wisconsin was Wisconsin, and Berkeley was Berkeley. And so the end in sight is here. How do we get back there? Because we're going that way. We really are. We're going that way. So I think, what are these competing values? What's in our way? What is in your way? What's in your way? I kind of heard some of it earlier. You guys got these really cool games like Minecraft, right? Yeah, you do. I saw it. Pokemon, Facebook. Oh my gosh, these things are life suckers. And I want to be here to tell you that I get it. I'm not that old. But these things take up something called time. Your precious time. Very precious time. Language. When I just mentioned, I took some time to try to learn my language, and I still do. That takes time. That takes elbow grease. It takes grit. You got to get away from the distractions. Even your best friend, your girlfriend, even your mom. Sometimes your pet's also a little demanding too, right? Time. Traditional skills. How did I made almost this entire piece. I mean, this pachge right here. I was in college my first year. I was only 17. Moving into the dorms wasn't even legal yet. And I thought, gosh, do I go to college or do I learn how to make this? And I was like, heck, I'm going to do it the Sam way. I'm going to do both. So there I sat, putting one bead on at a time, weaving it in with beeswax. It took a year and a half. I was almost a junior. Pretty purple thing. And I was always told that the pachge and pachgeoko, my hairpiece that I also made, it's very important to remember. And this is what I want to do. I was afraid to go get colonialized at a Big Ten university, University of Wisconsin-Madison. I was afraid to turn a little too white if I left my reservation. So I thought I'd just keep beading and do something and stay a little of who I knew. And so I was always taught that these pieces here, they remind you that we are no better than the other 2-leggeds and 4-leggeds out there. We're animals. We have tails. We're born with tails. And so even on my moccasin, you will see little tails on each piece of the moccasins I made to remind me I'm no better than those 4-leggeds out there, the fish, the water, part of all of that. Yeah. So for those of you that are leaving home and going out to the world, don't be afraid. That stuff's in your DNA. And I remember I used to work at these big law firms, 600 attorneys a pop. They don't hire brown people like me, but they did. They wanted me to work for them because I brought in business. I brought lots and lots of business. And the one thing we did one day is we went to this big retreat in Chicago, and it was, how do you become a better lawyer retreat? And the first thing they did for their icebreakers, they said, everybody in the room, we want you to tell us one thing about yourself that nobody in here can say. And I thought about that. I'm like, wow, I can say a lot of things that these guys in this room can't say. And so when it was my turn, I stood up and I said, I've got the blood of warriors pumping through my veins. Oh my gosh. It was so quiet in there. They were like, I was like, I'm just kidding you guys, but it's true. I mean, anyway, so what I want to point out to our young people here is you've got a lot of competition. You got to make some choices here. Make some choices, and they don't have to be perfect. You don't have to, kill your social media accounts, but just give yourself some time. Work yourself some more time to learn your language and your traditions. So when you go somewhere, your voice isn't quivering, right? That you can stand up in front of people and tell people who you really are. And that's how you make change. That's how you make change, because then people listen, right? They listen to you. All right, so there's other things out there. I'm not going to go over all of this. We've got all kinds of problems. But I want you to see these in writing so you know what I'm talking about when I get to the next piece. Where do we go from here? The good work. If you look at my law firm, I own a law firm. I know, right? Pretty cool. And I own a law firm in my traditional homelands of Dejope, Wisconsin. Well, who else should own a law firm in their own hometown village but a Ho-Chunk woman, right? So I own this law firm. We do Indian law exclusively for tribes, tribal organizations, nonprofits. I call it the good work, because everything we do, never been done before, never going to be done again, and it's fantastic work. I want to share a little bit of some of the work that I do. Oh my goodness. So working in big law means you got to work a lot of hours. If you want to be a corporate attorney, you better be able to give up everything you have, right? I mean, I literally breastfed my baby at my desk for 6 months. That's how hard I worked. I went to go to work, whoever I was, mom, wife, anybody. My only goal at that time, because I felt like I didn't know if I was going to do this forever, but if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it as good as I can do it. I'm going to be the best darn lawyer. I'm going to make these folks here teach me how to be a good lawyer. And they did. They didn't fail me. Here's a few projects that I did that I'm pretty proud of. Right when I came out of, before I actually went to law school, I worked in my tribe's heritage preservation department, which is where I said I was asked to interview elders. And when I did that job, I got a call from a water watchdog organization, and they said, Samantha, did you know there's a big bottling company coming into Wisconsin? They were invited by the governor. They've changed all the DNR rules so they could test the aquifers and see how many millions of gallons they can pull out. And they picked 3 sites. Their number 1 site is in Ho-Chunk territory called Big Spring. And I about lost it, because I've heard about Big Spring. This is where you get all your water to name your children. You need water, this water from this place, when they are born, when they're this age, to give them their names in spring feast and winter feast. There's only 2 times a year they'll get a name. If anything happens to you, if I move away and walk on, the only time I'm going to know my name, the only time I'm going to need to know my name is when I walk on. And if we don't get that water, and those elders and veterans don't gift me with that name, I won't know who's calling me. I'll get lost out there. So I find out Big Spring is up for grabs for bottling. And so I wasn't a lawyer yet, but I went after this case like crazy, testified, got the lawyers in the tribe to file a lawsuit. All of a sudden, I'm being followed by a black car 24 hours a day. Aaron Brockovich stuff, right? I live on my little horse farm out in the woods in a cabin with my dog, and they're following me everywhere. We ended up losing the lawsuit, but we actually scared the pants off because we made allies. This is my first time at the age of 21. I learned how to work with non-Indian allies, and we got that bottling company out of Wisconsin. And huge success. Yes. And that was huge, because right after we got them out, I went and sat for the LSAT, and I decided, I don't need to be asking lawyers to file lawsuits for fights. I can go be a lawyer myself. So I did. Went off to University of Denver, studied under Cherokee Nation property guru, Kristen Carpenter, who's now doing international law. She's my professor, was a research assistant. We wrote papers together. And I learned how to protect homelands just from American property law. I learned how to do these things strategically. Did all these internships, DOJ, you can name it, I did it. The next one, recovering sacred homelands. Ho-Chunk, this is one of my favorites. I got out of law school, passed the bar exam, went to work for my tribe. The Attorney General, David Klauser, says to me, Samantha, here's your first assignments. And they were terrible assignments. I was like, why are you giving me all these terrible assignments? He's like, all the other lawyers here don't want to do them. So they just put them on a list and they waited for you to start. Okay, cool. One of them was the site you see in the middle here. They said, well, there's an old Army ammunition plant in Baraboo, Wisconsin. It's 7,234 acres big. It's full of all kinds of contaminants like no tomorrow. They don't even know how to take the contaminants out of the space. They can't even put them on the railroad because the whole railroad could go bust. They have to do a landfill on the site because they have to do special cells that we don't have the technology to guard the materials that they put to build all the ammunition here on this plant. Well, our ancestors decided one day when they're done contaminating this land that they wanted that land back. That's Ho-Chunk ceded territory from our treaty of 1837. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna go after that land for you. So I walk into the corporate counsel's office for the agency that is supposed to be divvying up this land, figuring out who should get it, and he throws his business cards at us lawyers, as tribal lawyers, and he says, when you know the law, come back and talk to me. He said, I'm pretty sure we might have thought about giving you guys 400 acres out of the 7,200 acres, but the process has moved on without you guys, so probably not. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I think it was 2010, after going to meetings for 5 years straight, again, making allies with corporate counsel, federal agencies, local companies, the DNR, the state of Wisconsin, then Congresswoman Tammy Baldwin, now Senator Tammy Baldwin. We've got 1,552 acres moved into trust. That's the land you see here, forever to be owned by the Ho-Chunk Nation. Yes. Thank you. And then another day, I got a call from the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and they said, hey, Samantha, we have this wayside in Wisconsin Dells, and on the wayside, there's some sacred sites there. And I was like, yeah, I know which one that is. I learned about it a long time ago. They're like, well, it's kind of fallen in disrepair. We're not really using it. I'm like, well, give it to Ho-Chunk. Give it back to my tribe. Oh, we don't do that kind of thing. Yes, you do. You absolutely do. Chapter 95, Wisconsin Department of Transportation has authority to move land within a DOT project, as long as it's fair market value. So I had concocted a plan to help clean the place up, put some sweat equity in it from the nation, and made a zero-cost transfer of all 20 acres with 20 effigy mounds on it, right here to the Ho-Chunk Nation. And I couldn't wait till we put the sign up that says, Ho-Chunk Nation, sacred site. And it's still there today. And we own that land now. It'll forever be in the nation's ownership. One more, let me give you one more. This is my favorite because it's not done yet, but it's still successful in my eyes. So wherever you live, and I live in the state capital of Madison, Wisconsin, called 4 Lakes. And my goal while living there is, gosh, I can do all this great work. I can do work for, oh my gosh, 4 tribes in Arizona, 2 tribes in California, a tribe in Texas, tribes on the East Coast, all over the place. But what am I doing for my own community? I just had this revelation about 5 years ago. And I thought, goodness, I better be doing something. I have an idea. I'm going to indigenize my city. Yeah. If anybody could do it, I should be able to do it, right? Yeah. So I start with the water. So Wisconsin, or Madison, Dejope, is actually an isthmus, which means there's a little land bridge between the biggest lake over here and the second biggest lake over here. There's a state capitol. If you look at the capitol, you see that little white building in front of it? That's where my law office is. Yeah, I don't mess around. I'm right downtown. Big law, what? Anyway, so I decide, how can I get the biggest audience to share the Samantha message when you're in a jam called Sam? So I'm here in my own jam. I'm gonna call myself up and say, where can I get an audience of at least 600 people to convince them that indigenizing Dejope is the right thing to do? And I see that there's people protecting our water. Again, find your allies, young people. They don't have to look like you. They might be way older than you. They might be way younger than you, but find your allies. So I made friends with James Ty, the CEO of Clean Lakes Alliance, introduced him to my tribal leaders. They forged a formal contract, formal partnership. And in the formal partnership, they agreed to learn how to protect this water together. Over time, we're redesigning all of the lakeway pathways, all the concrete, the parapets, those are all going to look indigenous. My grandmother, who birthed a black deer from Chief Blackhawk's line, again, the blood runs through me. She used to walk me down that isthmus and say, look at all the marker trees, all the spring sites, the trails. We left all that here for your generation so you knew what to do. And so what I was doing is sitting down with the city planners to reconstruct all of that permanently. right? Because that's how you indigenize the city. You take it back to the way it was meant, how it was left for you, but you make it a little bit better, a little bit stronger. So that's one project I'm working on right now that's on the go. But I want to leave with just a message or two for you young people. I'm getting older, but I'm not that old. I need somebody up here in a couple of years. There's me on the Supreme Court with Chief Justice Todd Mesa and Justice Tricia Zunker. I served for 4 years on our Supreme Court, and again, we try to codify the way we talk to each other in Ho-Chunk language so that that's left in our documents. But what I've learned and what I want to share with you at this point in time is that what I was taught and what I'm hoping to share with you is change is imminent. It's always coming. You have to do better than your older brother and sister. You have to be smarter than your parents were. And you have to be more bold than the advocates before you. You just have to be better. You have to test yourself. You have to adapt. And when you do those things, you evolve. You evolve. This is my daughter, Alex. She's a 17-year-old senior, and she's the one who coined the phrase, when in a jam, call Sam. She's like 14, and she said, Mom, I'm really getting tired of hearing from the other lawyer. I'm gonna make your own jingle up. I'm like, okay. So there it is. Yeah, Alex is fantastic. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's a golfer, she's in track right now. She's a social justice warrior. She's on the steps, shaking her fist at the state capitol since she was 13. She's a protester. She hasn't been put in jail yet, though. It's coming, it's probably coming. I'm okay with that. I know people. But she's fantastic. And I have to say, when you're a parent, you really wonder of all the things you believe in and all the things you do. And she's watching me, right? She's watching me do all that other stuff. She watches me. She's the one who sees me 24 hours a day with no sleep, running from plane to plane, hair a mess, on the phone, getting calls 24 hours a day, all the time. Everybody's a disaster. Tribal leaders falling to the wayside. Lawyers calling and threatening. Me, I got my life threatened a million times doing the work I do. I don't care. I don't care at all. She watches all of that. She's got the eyeballs on me. She knows what it takes to do the hard work and what I say, the good work. And so I will say that indigeneity, it's all in your blood already. It's already all there. You don't need to do anything much more except use your time wisely. Use your time wisely. Spend it with those right people, not with the wrong people. So I'm going to leave you with one last thought. And I opened up with this thought about Legacies. We have this beautiful song in our language called Love One Another, the Legacies song. And here you can see this is a fallen marker tree. Remember I told you my grandma? She used to be on the other side of the lake, and she'd point over to this marker tree. And this marker tree fell about 10 years ago. And one of our Ho-Chunk carvers took the tree and he recarved it into a bunch of bears, these bear clan, holding each other tightly. And the city where I worked with too to help save these sacred sites, there's Indian mounds all behind it. They erected it back up where it was. So again, indigeneity. We took something from our past and put that right back up to remind the next generation what we're doing. Harry Whitehorse is the carver of this. And I thought, what more fitting than to put this beautiful testament to our history, the guideposts, the marker trees, the sacred spring sites, our trails, our paths, our waterways, everything that was left for us and pointed out to us, as obvious as it could be, to put it right back up where it was and then to protect it forever. And so this is the song, Love One Another, they say. The good people, the creator, that's what they say. The creator likes it when you love one another more than yourself. That's my message to you. Who's my future leaders? Can you stand up, please? All you young Indigenous leaders are going to lead the way. Wow. Look at you shine. Beautiful. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed, but today's one of those days where I say, we're going to be okay. Yeah, we're going to be just fine. Thank you guys for being here. I want to reiterate one last message, is that we've got work to do. Bioneers is the place to do it. Gloves are off from Samantha Skenandore. They are off. I'll share all my proprietary and knowledge with Bioneers and Bioneers only going forward. Everything I've learned about doing what we've done to protect our earth, to build our youth up, to give you resources and tools, to point you in those obvious directions. You can call me 24/7, but please don't do it on the weekends. I'm getting a little older. Another time. We need support at Bioneers. We need support. We need funding to get these lawyers out there, to train these people up, to get these students with each other talking. This is how it gets done. Just like that intertribal council chamber right down the isthmus of Daejeop, Wisconsin, if those old tribal leaders were not meeting, traveling by horseback, multiple states, to go have a conversation about the good of the order, I wouldn't be here, and neither would any of you. We need to get these people together, just like our elders taught us. They need to conference, they need to travel, they need to experience, they need to find allies, they need to find strength for each other, they need to hold each other up in those bad days when their voices are quivering, when they are at a loss for words, when their mom and dad and their grandma and grandpas aren't here to hold their hands. They need to hold each other up. So Bioneers could really use your funding, people. This is where the money's gonna go in the goodest of ways. And with tribal sovereignty all around us, it's gonna get better. It will get better. The needle will move in the right direction. So thank you for your attention today. We love you. Ken, Nina. Thank you.